The daily average of known gotaways at the southern border plummets down 93%. 93% from Biden administration highs. Remember, Trump had 45, 46-year lows of illegal immigration at the southern border? And then Biden got into office and we were just off to the moon? Well, now we've got that boomerang effect coming back round for round 2 of the Trump administration. Let's get into it. What do these numbers actually mean? Here we go. Now, the article says the U.S. started to see the effects of Trump's policies in his second week in office.
The numbers during this is Trump versus Biden. As you can see, the top 2 numbers.
These are daily.
Administration.
Daily.
Fiscal year 2023, 1,800 a day. Right now, it is at 132. That is down 93%. Tom Homan yesterday said that interior enforcement, in other words, the number of people who are being apprehended here within the interior of the United States is 3 times higher than it was a year ago. But at the same time, there are a couple of stories out there this morning that apparently the White House is not crazy about the numbers. They would like to see the numbers bigger. Apparently the White House has stopped giving out the daily numbers. They're frustrated that the numbers of the people being deported are not big enough, not fast enough to get where the president wanted it to be, where it would be millions deported. And yesterday, 2 top ICE officials were removed from their jobs. One went back to the field office in D.C., the other to Minneapolis for St. Paul.
So why did I show you that clip from Fox that you could have seen just by going and looking at Fox? Because it's one of those, one of the comments in there was that the current administration, the Trump administration, isn't happy with the numbers of people being deported. And I have said all along that you can only deport so many people. You've only got so many ICE officials. You've only got so many DPS dudes down in Texas. You've only got so many National Guard. You've only got so many entities helping out. And then you've got knuckleheads. You've got just utter buffoons like J.B. Pritzker in Illinois. You got, Washington State. You've got California. You've got Oregon. You've got all these just chuckleheads who think that, you know what? We can't let these criminal illegal aliens go. We need to keep them here in the country because that's really good for the American people. It's great for Americans. I mean, what are they thinking? You know what I mean? Does it ever run through your head? Okay, why are you protesting that ICE and Tom Homan are basically clearing out criminal illegal aliens? Why is that an issue for you? Because you're crazy. That's why. Let's read this article. Daily average of known gotaways down to just 132 per day, down 93%. During the Biden administration, Fox News submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, for fiscal year 2023 statistics and learned there were 670,000 known gotaways recorded that year, a jaw-dropping average of more than 1,800 per day. So what number is that? That's of people that they knew came across the border, but officials couldn't get a hold of them. They got away. Now, the bigger number there would be the gotaways that we don't know, the unknown gotaways. How many of them came across the border and were undetected one way or the other? Double that? Were we 3,600? Were we 4,000 per day? Who knows, right? Who knows? You don't know. Nor do we have any real way of tracking that because the border is so big. If you've been to the southern border, you realize, wow, this goes on for miles and miles and miles. Yeah, you can catch some of them, but you can't catch all of them because when you make an emphasis over here, then over here is when the cartel runs all their drugs, runs all their human trafficking, runs all their sex trafficking, runs all, their people through the border. That's just how it's done. All right, we got a bus going on over here. So that means over here, border's wide open, and you can only contain so much of the border at any given point in time. President Donald Trump took office on January 20th and has taken extensive measures to secure the southern border, resulting in a 93% drop in the daily average of known gotaways. Getting back to the numbers which Trump feels are low and they're not what he wants, he's doing work, right? The administration is doing work. ICE is doing work. They're actually doing what they're meant to be doing instead of acting like Uber drivers for, these big liberal cities. Hey, you want to go to Chicago? You want to go to New York? You want to go to Seattle? You want to go to DC? You want to go to Philly? How about Denver? How about we send you on a little trip to Denver instead of ICE becoming a travel, agent for illegals? They're now actually doing what they're supposed to do, which is secure the border. Novel concept, but with only so much bandwidth, you're only going to be able to deport. And with ICE going after the criminal element right now, people with orders to already be deported for one reason or another, or actual criminals that are in the country that shouldn't be here. So like Mike Johnson in Denver, he's complaining that, hey, what are we doing? Chicago, let's go Brandon Johnson, same thing. Those guys are going to have to testify in front of Congress, and I'll be curious to see what they have to say. I mean, because they're literally going against their constituents' desires, which are constituents want that money. It's their taxpayers' money going to fund all this stuff for the illegals. They want that money going to themselves. And how do I know that? I've had multiple conversations with people in Chicago who've basically said as much. Hey, we don't really, no offense, we don't really give a damn about these illegals. We want some of that money because we need that money. We're here. We've always been here. We're working hard. We're paying taxes. And it's our leadership. It's the failed leadership of the big blue Democratic cities, the progressive mayors like Let's Go Brandon Johnson. It's those folks that are making it, so that a city like Chicago has to take on millions and millions and millions of dollars of housing, of food, of childcare, of services, of clothing to these illegals that they have virtue signaled. Now it's not working out all that well. So now you've got, these big liberal cities have got that going on. And at the same time, they're being asked to, hey, you need to help out with the ICE deportations. And they're saying no. And so these constituents are going, now, why do we want to keep criminal illegal aliens in the midst of our community? Why is that a good thing? Excellent question. I think we'll have fun on, March 5th, I believe, which is when, that is when the congressional hearings are going to happen. And I'm thinking about live streaming it because I want to hear Let's Go Brandon Johnson come up with, excuses as to why he's doing what he's doing. He doesn't have any, and he knows damn well he doesn't have any. And none of these mayors, Denver, Chicago, New York City, they don't want to go to these hearings because they are just going to get grilled. The only one that's got kind of a little bit of a side out option is Eric Adams, mayor of New York City, because he is sucked up to Trump and he's basically called it out the way it is, which is, hey, we can't afford all these illegals. And the way with New York state law is written, we got to give them housing. This is damn expensive. We need some federal help. And the feds at the time, Biden, said, nope, be a good Democrat, mind your own business, figure out a way to get it done. And Eric Adams was like, no, this is a federal issue. Federals aren't doing their job at the border. This is a federal issue. If you're going to make it incumbent upon us to feed, house, clothe, all of this other stuff of these illegals, we're going to need some help. And you know what they gave him for his troubles? Yeah, multiple indictments. Yeah. Which the Trump Department of Justice has said, you know what? We're going to say that those charges need to be dropped. So we're waiting to see how all of that plans out. So these numbers are kept internally by Customs and Border Protection, are typically not released to the public. So this 93% drop, I mean, that is an enormous drop. But I started to see this drop in quarter four in 2023. It was late 2023, right before 2024, as December to January. I was down at the border in, was it January and March? Something like that, or maybe January and February. I was pretty close to quick trips there. And the real story then was how much the illegal immigration had slowed down. The flow of illegals coming into the country had really diminished. And that was because Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, had done such a great job at just basically dropping the hammer, multiple lawsuits. He did everything in his power to make it clear, you're not coming through Texas. You're not coming through here. And so the cartel started moving people up to California. Remember when we heard all those stories about coming to California? Well, that was kind of short-lived, because now it's basically border entirely. Gotaways down 93%. I mean, literally, it was thousands and thousands and thousands of people streaming across the southern border. And then you got geniuses like Karine Jean-Pierre saying, oh, Peter Doocy, they're not just walking across the border into the country. And Peter Doocy's like, that's exactly what's going on, by the thousands. So now that these numbers are kind of out there, you're like, whoa, that's a lot. Country began to see the effects of Trump's policies in his second week in office, with the White House implementing tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China. How do you like that? Mexico, Canada, and China. Now it's going to make things a little bit more expensive, and President Trump has said, you're going to need to bear down because it's going to get a little bit more expensive. Pain's going to be temporary, but it's going to be worth it. All right. Border crossings plummeted, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs shuttered, federal workforce being faced with the decision to return to the office or to resign, and more. Man, it has been a whirlwind of activity with the whole Trump deal, right? He's just come in and wrecking balled with Doge, all that crazy stuff, 50 million in condoms to Gaza. Somebody I know was like, I didn't think they used condoms in Gaza. I mean, that whole thing with Hamas, there was no time for condoms involved. What are we even doing? And I was like, yeah, that's true. They were just running around doing their thing, right? Yeah, condoms not a big thing. But hey, if we can get $50 million out of the United States for condoms in Gaza, why don't we do that? It's less money than they got to come up with, right? Border czar Tom Homan said that after the first week, the Trump administration had removed and returned 7,300 illegal immigrants and had deported them to Mexico, Jordan, Brazil, and El Salvador. And now El Salvador is saying, hey, for a small fee, we will take some of your, undesirables. We'll take your convicts. And I'm thinking, that'd be interesting. Take a whole bunch of convicts from, say, Chicago. Deport them to El Salvador. Have El Salvador. We're going to sub out our prison duties, right? Yeah, I don't think that's constitutional. I don't think it's legal, but it's an interesting concept. But for illegals that their country, like Venezuela, doesn't want to take them back, although the Venezuela thing I think is in the works. I think Trump's going to be able to convince Venezuela, hey, we need you to participate here, Junior, and take some of your own people back, because we don't have any diplomatic relations with Venezuela. And there's a handful of countries like that. So El Salvador has said, hey, for a small fee, just a tiny fee, it's way cheaper than what you could do it for in the United States, meaning house, take care, incarcerate people. I would love to see that happen. I mean, talk about a deterrent, because I don't know if you've seen the prison system in El Salvador. Oof. It does not look pleasant. It looks horrific. And that's the way prison should be. Make it so that folks don't want to go back. It's like having a detox or some place where you go, you dry out and you get all the help, all that stuff for your AA and, all that stuff. But it's so, so nice that you just kind of want to hang out there like the Betty Ford Clinic. Hey, this is great. This is the best time ever. Now, make it terrible so you never want to go back. Yeah, I'm not getting back on the hooch because I don't want to go back to that center where it was just horrific. Deterrent. These are supposed to be deterrents. So, 93% down on Gotaways. It's a strong, strong start. Doesn't get much stronger than that, does it? No, But, got a lot of criminals in the country. You got 20 million people in the country that have come in here illegally in the last 4 years, something like that. I mean, it's a massive number. How many of those are criminal, illegal aliens? A handful. A bunch. So ICE has got their hands full. They're going to keep going, and I will keep reporting it to you right here on News for Reasonable People. Thanks for joining. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Love to have you subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'll see you then. Bye for now.